This is Home Tech, show number 103, recorded on January 17th, 2013. I'm your host, Jim Collison, broadcasting live from the AverageGuy.tv studios here in Bellevue, Nebraska, and we post the show each week with world-class show notes out at the AverageGuy.tv. If you have questions, comments, or contributions, you can contact the show via email. Just send that to us, podcast at the AverageGuy.tv, or track me down on Twitter. That's just J. Collison. You can even follow the show schedule out on our Twitter account. That is at the Average Guy TV. If you're new to podcasts and looking for an easy way to listen each week, you might want to consider using Stitcher, available for both Android and iPhone platforms. It's a great way to listen to the podcast both at home and on the road. Of course, this show and all the past shows are on Stitcher, Stitcher.com. Search Home Tech. It's education for your ears. You can also view and subscribe to the show on YouTube, or catch the show each week live. Hopefully a lot of you are catching that live right now, 8 p.m. Central, over at the AverageGuy.tv/live. And don't forget to visit the AverageGuy.tv/Amazon. We have brand new links for you to participate in the Amazon affiliate program with us. You know, we recycle all those commissions back into giveaways here at the Average Guy. And so some easy ways. Thanks, Michael Burris, for the suggestion. If you just go out to the AverageGuy.tv/Amazon or Amazon.theaverageguy.tv. Both those will go directly to our affiliate link, and we get credit for those. And we thank you for shopping at Amazon and allowing us to recycle those commissions back into the giveaways. And then just a reminder, if you're using Twitter during the show, or you want to tweet something about the show after the fact, we have that Twitter hashtag. It's just hashtag, and we made a change, so it's hashtag HT, capital HT, and the show number. This is show number 103. All right, we got a lot of stuff to get through tonight, and I'm going to just quickly get through some announcements real fast, and then we'll get to the main meat of the podcast. And we got a good one for you tonight. One of my best friends at work, Mario Blandini, is here from Drobo, and of course you guys know I'm a Drobo fanboy. Just go ahead and say it. And so Mario will be on the show here in just a second, but a couple quick show announcements. One, next Monday, the 24th, we'll do a special Home Tech interview edition. Ray Ortega from the Podcaster Studio will be with me. That'll be out of sync. That'll just be Ray and I. Monday night, we'll be doing that at 7 p.m. Central. Watch Twitter as well for that announcement. Ray will come on and talk with me about podcasting. So if you're a podcaster or you're thinking about podcasting and you want to know more about podcasting, we will talk about that Monday night, January 24th, live with Ray Ortega right here at the AverageGuy.tv/live. And then this week, we also relaunched the Financial Tech Podcast, and we've kind of slimmed that thing down. It's now on a diet, and it's 10 minutes in length. Believe it or not, I can do a 10-minute podcast, okay? So the very first one of those is out. Andrew Hunt and Andrew does some financial commentary on the market commentary about what's going on here in the U.S. It's 10 minutes in length. You'll want to download it and listen to it each week for sure. Head out to the AverageGuy.tv, search for Financial Tech, and again, subscribe to that either via Stitcher or put that in your podcatcher. The video, we're even doing video out at the Average Guy channel on YouTube, youtube.com/theaverageguy. All right, let's get right down to it. Mario, I've been badgering you for quite a while and said we need to get you on the show. We need to get you on the show, and you said, Jim, we're launching some new product. Mario, first, welcome to Home Tech. Glad that you are here.
I'm really happy to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
You bet. So I got an email yesterday that said a brand new product has come out from Drobo. It's something that you guys have not necessarily been keeping a secret. You've been talking for a while that the 5N would be out. And so what I wanted to do is give you a little time to talk about what's going on at Drobo, talk about the new product launch, and then spend a little time about talking about what maybe the future of that's going on at Drobo. So first, kind of fill me in for somebody who's never seen the 5N or never even heard of a Drobo. Kind of give me an idea. What are you guys doing with this new 5N?
Yeah, I'll back up even to say what is a Drobo. A box about the size of a toaster. It holds hard drives, and it looks like a big old hard drive or several big old hard drives, but protects you from any one of those hard drives failing. Now, for folks who are into home tech, they may know what RAID is. As a longtime IT guy like you, Jim, I know what RAID is, but most people think of RAID as that thing you spray in the house during the summertime when ants come into the kitchen, right? It's bug spray. For folks who know what it is, redundant array of independent disks or inexpensive devices, something that was invented back in the late 80s to really solve the problem of enterprise customers who had really critical data that they didn't want to lose. And if you lost a hard drive to a hard drive failure, and hopefully everybody knows here that hard drives can and do fail. Not a day goes by where someone doesn't have a really terrible story about having lost memories, having lost home business data, which is even worse. It could bankrupt you. You don't need to buy a Drobo. Heck, you don't need to even have RAID, but you should practice a lot of great data protection strategies, which I know you cover a lot in your program. Drobo is just one of the other devices out there that you can use as an alternative to other products. I'll talk a little bit about the different ways that we provide those products, but in a nutshell, if you want to protect yourself from a hard drive failure for your first copy of your storage, or make sure your backups are protected from hard drive failure, you'd use a product like a Drobo that makes it look like one and makes it really easy to use. And the distinction of a Drobo, I'll actually, if you're seeing my webcam, I've got my Drobo at my own house here. These are the instructions, everybody, on how to use a Drobo. If you are at home and you left the house today and operated a motor vehicle, congratulations, you are a certified operator for a Drobo, because all you have to do is follow simple traffic signals. Face it, I'm a geek. Most folks listening to this are probably geeks too, so you're going to miss out, unfortunately, if you use a Drobo, on a lot of the pleasure of spending hours of getting it set up and configuring it and picking all the options and doing all the tuning. Drobos are boring in that regard. They literally set themselves up in minutes, and you know, for a lot of the folks who want to read some some of the best product reviews out there, Jim over on several different channels has done some great reviews of Drobo product. Long story short, we make a product, you put hard drives into it, we virtualize it. To talk about the 5N, it's our newest product. We announced it in December, and frankly, a lot of folks were expecting it to come out. For folks who have the Drobo dashboard software and previous versions of Drobos, we really didn't hide it too well. You could have done a search string within our executable and known the name of the product as early as last September. But we announced it in December. It's shipping as of yesterday, and it's this product that I have sitting over here in my office, a 5-drive system. You can mix and match different capacities of drives. It gets all virtualized into one file share that if you're using a Mac, it uses AFP. If you're using a Windows system, it uses CIF Samba, and goes out and sees it as a 16 terabyte volume that you can put your stuff on. So everybody can back up to it. Heck, you can create as many shares as you want, up to 64 different shares if you want to slice and dice it in a home, so you can keep people's movies away from other people's movies and have security and all that sort of stuff. Because most people buy a Drobo, given it's so easy to use, not a lot of people will use those capabilities. But the 5N is a NAS type device that protects you from a hard drive failure, makes it ultra easy to use. And what's cool about this, I know, Jim, you've taken a lot of heat for this in the past. Drobo has had one word used to describe it. It's an S word, and it's 4 letters, which is normally really bad. You don't want to have a 4-letter word to describe you. It's the slow word. And I'll be honest, when I came to Drobo 2.5 years ago, the products were not fast because they were optimized really to be super easy to use. And some feedback that we got in working with folks like you, Jim, and others is that, man, the ease of use is awesome. I love it. If you made it faster, it'd even be even more awesome. So that's what we've done with these products, and the 5N now is a rather snappy product for a home NAS. And we also lower the price as a part of the process. You'll find NAS devices starting from $200 up to several thousand, depending on what you're looking for. This particular product's $599. You're allowed to mix and match any 3.5-inch hard drives that you want to mix and match. And you can leverage some of the old ones you have. You can buy the latest ones. You don't have to buy the drives from us either. You can source them through Amazon, Newegg, wherever you can get the best price. And this box really is for someone who needs a lot of capacity, because with 5 drive slots, assuming that you used 3 terabyte drives, which are the second largest practical capacity you can get, they're the best price capacity these days. You can put, in that case, 15 terabytes of raw storage and have 12 usable terabytes with protection from 1 hard drive failure. At risk of going on too long of a monologue, the last thing I'll point out is for people who are really paranoid and they really are wanting to protect themselves from all types of failures, you can configure a Drobo to tolerate 2 simultaneous drive failures. Now, you're probably wondering, why the heck is that important? For folks who know RAID, if you want to rebuild from a drive failure using your hot spare, that can take quite a long time. And with today's very large format drives, that can take a day, 2 days, even 3 days to rebuild itself. So for folks who want protection from a subsequent drive failure, during that day or two that it takes to rebuild itself, you can enable that dual disk redundancy capability on a Drobo. Equivalent to what a lot of people would call RAID 6, but with Drobo, everything's automatic. You can change back and forth between that setting anytime that you want. By default, it's turned off, but you can very easily enable it with a checkbox. As long as you have enough available capacity on the system, you're just fine. I'll point out one real quick thing is on my Drobo here. You probably can't see it too well. The green lights tell you everything's good to go. The blue lights on the bottom tell you how full it is. So my systems, and I've got a couple PCs, I got a couple Macs around, they all have their own different shares. They're doing things like Time Machine backup. They're doing Drobo PC backup, which is a software that we had with our previous products. I'm roughly half full right now. I have some generally smaller drives. There are 500 gigs. I got a 750. I got two 400s here. We virtualize it all together. I'm using about half of that physical capacity that exists. As I continue to fill it up, if I do get to 85% full on my available capacity, a little yellow light will come on that will tell me to add a drive soon, which is a way to say, hey, you don't have to change the way your computers interact with the Drobo. Just feed it more storage, and it'll update everything automatically. So that's kind of a cool thing that makes Drobo different. You can buy the chassis once, and rather than buying a new system when you fill it up, you just buy a new hard drive, swap them out, because it's so practical and easy to pull out a smaller drive and pop in a bigger one. It makes it really practical. And me personally, I have dual disk redundancy at home. Call me paranoid. I'm in the storage industry. I know hard drives fail. But for most folks, single disk redundancy is better than what they're using today, which a lot of folks just have a single hard drive. They're not backing up regularly. Their data's at risk. I'm one to tell you that don't buy a Drobo or any other RAID device. If you can do backups really consistently, that's going to help you out. But what a lot of folks like to do is have a centralized storage to make that backup a lot easier. And while you're centralizing, you might as well protect that stuff from a hard drive failure too.
Mario, one of the, we partner a lot with JPEG to RAW, Mike's podcast, and we just got kind of lucky that we had Mike on here this week. I didn't plan it that way. You and I just started talking about this last week about bringing you on. But the photographers are an area, photography, videography, those guys that are creating large data sets. That seems to be a pretty good target audience too for Drobo, right? Because they do want to keep that data on site. They don't want to necessarily ship it to the cloud all the time, and so it allows them to create large 10, 12, 15 terabyte spaces, right? Because, Mike, I know, how much data do you have? How much are you keeping locally?
I have one server that has 18 terabyte of storage on it. But in photos itself, it's at least 2 terabyte. I shoot with a 32 gig card, and I can fill that up every weekend, depending on what's going on. But I've even heard of photographers doing, when they do a big production, let's say it's a big production, of putting the photos on a smaller Drobo and giving that to the client. So now that even the client has that stuff stored somewhere on a protected device. But for a lot of photographers want some kind of easy to use protection from a single drive failure, or in some cases double drive failure. So they like something like a Drobo, because it's so easy. And the other benefit from separate from a RAID is you can mix different size drives in there. You can take drives you have lying around the house, slap them in there, and get going, and then build up the storage over time. You can put a 3 terabyte in later and do something like that. That is a huge advantage to a photographer, because you don't have to go all in right up front.
Yep.
Yeah, you can really go ahead, Mario.
No, and I was just going to say, photographers were probably the first people to pick up Drobos. The company's been around since 2005, shipping products since 2007. There's 250,000 Drobo owners, so you guys aren't alone. Mike, Jim, and lots of other people do have Drobos as well. And the reason photographers were early to jump on, it's not because they don't know how to use tech products. Most of them would prefer not to spend time on it, so saving time really is kind of important. But really, it's because once you put a lot of effort into editing your photos, you can never get that time back. You might be able to go to a backup and get your unedited originals, but most folks can very easily quantify that those photos have a lot of value. For folks who are listening to the podcast, you're probably thinking, heck, is the stuff I have at home important? My guess is you definitely feel that way. It turns out that 63% of people in the U.S. wouldn't take $1 million to destroy all their photos and videos. How wacky is that? I'm probably one of those people in the minority that would take the $1 million and go on every vacation again and take the pictures over again. But it goes to show you
It's a
that
good
most
idea.
people, they just wouldn't take it, right? And so all of us have houses that are probably worth less than $1 million, right? But you're spending more than $1,000 a year on home insurance. That's easy.
Yeah.
We all understand that. People have millions of dollars of value in their personal memories, their digital assets, yet they're not even spending a couple $100 on insuring them from a hard drive failure, which I guarantee you hard drives fail a lot more often than houses burn down.
Yeah.
So that's one of those things just to keep in mind.
Mario, one of the things we talk, of course, I'm on the home server show as well. And so, we talk a lot about a backup there. That has bled over into the Home Tech podcast just because a lot of the guys that hang out here are come from the home server community and such. And so we're a little crazy about our RAID. We're a little crazy about our storage. The average, I think, speaking in average guy terms, the average tech guy can handle the complexity of RAIDs oftentimes. And so one of the things I come up against the most when I deal with these guys and we talk about it is like, I want to set up my own RAID. I like to control, I want to know what's going on and understand all that stuff. And I've set up RAID too. So it's not, for the average guy, it's not average tech guy, it's not that hard. One of the things I've appreciated about Drobo, it is a device I could give to somebody who doesn't know a lot about backup and say, stick these drives in and follow these fairly simple instructions, and it works pretty well. Mario, talk a little bit though, when something does go wrong at the Drobo level, right? When the Drobo itself starts to have problems, or if I've got to rebuild, if for some reason I've got to rebuild the Drobo itself, like I've got to replace it, pull the drives out, put them back in the same order. I've had some folks say it takes a long time to rebuild that RAID or rebuild that data. Can you talk a little bit about what you guys do on the backside from a Drobo support standpoint?
Oh, happy to do that. So protecting from a hard drive failure is one thing. Anything that is technology naturally can fail. And so there are instances, albeit rare, that the Drobo itself might need to be replaced. By standard warranty, Drobos have a 2-year hardware warranty. So if there was the need to go ahead and replace that, it same day ship, next day arrive here in the US and in a lot of countries around the world that way. Now, when it comes to RAID, here's one of the fallacies about RAID. RAID is a standard. I think everybody realizes that. It is a standard, and most companies purchase merchant silicon that has RAID technology in it, and they build their products out of that commercially available chipset. So they're, quote, using standard RAID. But one of the interesting things is while everybody's using the standard RAID, it's not possible to take the disks from one vendor's RAID and put it into another vendor's RAID. I'll use some big examples like HP and Dell are both companies that people know. You can't take the disks from an HP RAID and put it into a Dell RAID. It just won't work. In a lot of cases, you can't even take the disks from one HP RAID and put it into a different HP RAID. Most every product, while based on standard technology, will have very specific things you can do with those disks. And in general, if you have a systems failure, the idea would be you would pull the drives out of your system, which are still protecting your data, put them back into a comparable system so you can go ahead and fire it back up. A lot of times it'll require you to match up some firmware. You'll probably have to make some manual settings, and you'd very much have to make sure you take all the drives out and label them very meticulously so you can put them back in the exact same order. The way RAID generally works is it's a algorithm that is set up, and it's very geometric. You got to put it back together the same way that it was built. With the Drobo, when we rewrote how RAID works for us, we removed some of those limitations. So not only can you take the drives out, mix up the order, and put them back, we had the U.S. Census, in fact, rather than provision telecom lines to put all their census data in 2010 back to Washington, D.C. They had 7 regional offices. They dumped it on a Drobo, mailed the hard drives back to D.C. Of course, they didn't arrive in the same order. They popped into a Drobo, pulled the data off, and everything was cool. So Drobos are a little bit easier to use that way, and we provide some migration paths. So this Drobo 5N that I told you about, if you're a Drobo FS owner, I know you've got one, Jim, you can take those disks out of a Drobo FS, mix up the order, pop them into a Drobo 5N, a minute and a half later it would pop up.
So you can mix and match drives from one Drobo version to another Drobo version?
Yes, there are some specific migration paths that are supported, and really there's no limit to us supporting it, but the tested ones that we've certified, and we're going to make sure that work really well for you, are natural upgrade paths. So the 4-bay Drobo, with a lot of home server show folks might have bought as a back-end storage to a home server, you could migrate that to the Drobo 5D, which is our most modern product, for example. Or a Drobo FS could migrate to the Drobo 5N without a problem as well.
Very nice. I like that, and the fact you can change up the order.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Mario, you have those migration paths listed right on your website. So if folks were interested in knowing how to do that, they could head out to drobo.com and
Drobo.com/migration.
I brought up the Drobo dashboard because this is something that I use quite a bit to manage the Drobo. At one point, we had a Drobo S that we gave away, but I had both Drobos on the system at the same time, so I can use more than one Drobo at a time on the system, and the Drobo dashboard recognizes it. This one, in this case, is the network. This is the FS that I have out there, and you can see I've got a couple drives loaded in there as well. Talk a little bit about the dashboard. It's been fairly stable for a while. Are you guys, this is how you manage your Drobo when it's either on the network or attached to a device. You guys move in any direction with the dashboard? Is it going to get any new functionality you can talk about here coming up in the future?
Yeah, with the Drobo 5N and some of the newer products, we're able to pull more statistics for it. The type of statistics that business owners are more interested in, but or IT guys for that matter. But given that most folks you mentioned are techie folks that want to know more about it, you can get a little bit more information about what's going on from a performance standpoint on the product using the most modern products. In this case, with the Drobo FS, our older product, it's really there just to provision shares and provision users. The system itself sets itself up automatically, so there's no settings you need to make. As long as you have DHCP on your network, it'll show up and everybody, it'll broadcast itself and everybody can connect to it over the network. If you want to create some new shares under the shares on the left-hand side there, Jim, you can create more shares. You see you just have one share. That's the most common way people use it. Have one big old party out there. It looks like it's 16 terabytes. Everybody can put their stuff there and it's just fine. While we do offer under share settings there the ability to configure up to 32 named users and have 64 different shares there. Frankly, most people operate the Drobo using the lights on the front panel. They're rarely going to bring up Drobo dashboard, but if you wanted to have email alerts under dashboard preferences, there on the left-hand side, you can see on the right-hand side you can set up email alerts where you could configure those and you can email yourself if there's a problem like a hard drive failing, for example. So that's one feature of Drobo dashboard. The Drobo 5N as well as the 5D and any Drobo Mini, all the Drobo products that you might use at home, they don't send their own email alerts. The email alerts actually come from Drobo dashboard. So this is an application that runs on a PC or a Mac. It runs as a service or on the menu bar if you're a Mac user. And as long as it's running, it'll go ahead and send you those email alerts and give you your on-screen alerts as well. You'll see here you got it set up for DHCP, pretty straightforward. If you wanted to crank up the frame size for the MTU and go jumbo frames there, Jim, you could to eke out a little bit more throughput for some efficiency there with large data transfers.
Do you really recommend that, Mario?
I don't know. How many people have an end-to-end network where they can go jumbo frames at their house?
Right.
I don't know. If you've got the cheapest wireless router you can buy, which is the average person, well, actually, no, I take that back. Most of your listeners are probably buying the really premium stuff. So
That's it.
there you go. If you really
Sadly.
feel the need to get in there and tweak it up, great. Turn on jumbo frames and go crazy. I don't notice any really. It plateaus out really around 4,500. You'll get 5% efficiency above 1,500 for your large data transfers by tweaking that up.
Mario, talk a little bit about the new. Why is the 5N so fast? I mean, you're right.
Oh, yeah.
We've complained about this. We've said, hey, these things are slow. Everybody says they're slow. You obviously heard us. Why is the 5N any faster? I mean, what are you doing with it?
Well, it started about 2.5 years ago. I'm not one of the original founders of the company, but I'm an executive now. I joined 2.5 years ago because I firmly believe that the same reasons. I worked 8.5 years at a company, Brocade Communications, which makes the biggest, fastest, most expensive storage networking stuff on the planet. I believe that the same reasons why companies have built shared storage networks is the same reason why everybody needs one, because they have the same type of critical data that big businesses have, just on a much smaller scale. So Drobo first started out to make it as easy to use as possible. And arguably, we found our limits on what the original hardware could provide. So as we refreshed our product line, starting with the 5D and Mini, with Thunderbolt connections and USB 3.0. So we're topping out at fantastic direct attached storage speeds, well in excess of 200 megabytes a second, or twice as fast as a gig NAS can go. Our file sharing box in the past could not exercise the speed limit of a gigabit Ethernet network. We built it really from the ground up. We're using beefier multi-core ARM processors inside. We are running for our Beyond RAID technology, because there's no chips commercially available to do the stuff that we've done. We've written it in a real-time operating system to run on those ARM processor cores. We're running a hardened Linux for the networking and management side, and just kind of rebuilding the engine inside. Think of it as taking the old 302 out and putting in a Hemi and making sure that it's nice and tuned up to really make sure we can go the speed limit, so to speak. Yeah. On the network there. There's another feature that I'll point out. I'm not going to pick up my 5D while it's operating, but underneath there is I have a 5N at home. I got early access. I got one before they started shipping. That's the advantage of working here.
Of course you do. That's fine. We're okay with
I was a beta tester. What can I say? I had to make sure I could do a disk pack migration.
You're obligated to. You have to. We expect you to.
All right. So underneath, you can put an mSATA SSD. A lot of folks are wanting to get into SSDs, and I don't blame them, because SSDs can do a lot of great stuff for you, particularly in a network device where you have multiple users doing multiple different workloads. You got a couple people streaming, you got a couple people hammering it with some files, you're ripping some media, legally of course, and doing all that all at the same time. The system benefits from having higher IOs per second, because a lot of people measure storage and how much throughput you can get, but it turns out the more people that use a shared storage device, IO contention tends to be something that they need to look at. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Jen. Underneath we have a little slot to put an mSATA SSD. They're not very expensive, and the way Drobo uses it is as a cache or a hot data cache. So as you are writing small transactional IOs to the system, we'll place them immediately to the SSD, so you get much lower latency and more responsiveness, which triples or better the IO performance of the system. For about $50, you can put a 32 gig mSATA card underneath there. A 64 gig will cost you in the $75 range. While they make them up to 256 gig, in a Drobo you really don't need anything more than 64 gig. It's not going to provide you incrementally more performance by having a larger one of those. But the idea is you don't sacrifice the capacity using the front-facing slots. It is possible to take SSDs, put them into a 2.5 to 3.5 inch converter, like an IC dock. You can put that into a Drobo. I probably failed to mention that Drobo has a carrierless design, so you don't have a drive carrier that you installed. And one of the things that makes it physically very easy to use, even for novices. If you want to use a 2.5 inch drive, you'd need to then put it into an IC dock 2.5 to 3.5 inch carrier. And to show you how much I trust Drobo technology, I'm going to go ahead and rip out one of my own drives from the system live. Now, I do this. Yeah, and do try this at home, folks. If you have a Drobo, you should not feel scared to rip a drive out. So
okay.
It is a standard 3.5 inch hard drive, and what makes it different is I don't have no drive carrier. So if I wanted to replace this, I would go to Newegg, go to Amazon. I would order a 3.5 inch drive. Heck, I'd go to my local computer store and get a 3.5 inch drive. Without any drive carrier whatsoever, I jam it in there, and it will automatically add it back to the storage pool. You'll see here that the blue lights on my system actually here went way up. Drobo uses the free space in the system to rebuild itself. So we have a virtual hot spare. So one of the things that makes it easy, if you want to manage hot spares, bummer is you're going to be bored with a Drobo because you don't do any of that. We do it all automatically. What's kind of cool here, though, is because I ripped out that capacity, I am now in a situation where I need to add more. I'm 85% full because I have less capacity in the system. I can go ahead and reintroduce the drive. If this was a brand new drive, it'd work exactly the same way. In about 30 seconds, that drive's going to come online. I'm going to automatically update the amount of available capacity that I have. I was able to do that without putting the drive into a drive carrier. We've had tons of people tell us, man, I was away and I was totally worried about all my stuff. My wife, my daughter, my grandma grabbed a drive, jammed it in there, and now it's fixed. Wow, look at that. Within about 30 seconds, I'm completely updated on capacity, and it'll continue to recover from that drive failure over time. Now, we recovered about a terabyte every 17 hours, or about a gig a minute. And we do that on purpose. You don't want to flood the internal system because you want the external system to be just as responsive for anybody who wants to go ahead and use it. So that's about a rule of thumb when it comes to rebuilding. I'll probably go to sleep tonight. Before I wake up in the morning, that thing will be rebuilt. Now, but a little secret, because I reintroduced the same drive with a lot of that data, it's going to recognize most of those data structures. It'll be done rebuilding in about 10 minutes. But if it were a really true clean drive, it'd take about, let's say, for the amount of data I have, let's say about 6 or 7 hours to finish.
And Nathaniel put out in chat, 64 gig MSATA, $83 right now. So that's not a bad price, you know. Depends
on where you get it though. Like I know that the Crucials at Amazon are out of stock right now, but they were at $74.99. At least the last time I bought some, and maybe the price went up because I bought them all. I went and bought 10 of them for our lab here. So spot pricing.
So $599 without the MSATA. I upgrade it to $75, let's say, for put an MSATA card in there. What kind of difference in throughputs did you guys see just generally adding MSATA versus not having it?
All right, throughput, very little, unless you're measuring throughput in a combination of a workload that's doing large data transfers as well as lots of small files being copied at the same time. Again, the hot data cache is only going to help you for write transactions that are 32K or smaller. So start ripping a DVD, you'll never touch that little card. But if you've got regular file server usage going on, yes, there can be some benefits. So a lot of people will start without it. One of the cool things is you can introduce it at any time. There's nothing to configure. If it sees it, it starts using it. Even before you introduce it, we're keeping track of what's hot and what's not. So as soon as that MSATA card gets introduced, we'll promote all of the most frequently accessed read data to the MSATA card so that it's available there to accelerate your read transactions. And that's why as a file server, it'll triple your I/O performance with just as you mentioned, a $75, $85 upgrade.
Mario, does the MSATA get used for write caching as well? Or is it only read caching?
Yeah, we do write caching on ingest for things that are 32K or smaller to accelerate the stream of being able to write small IOs. And so think of it as, and we balance it out. I mean, it's in the area of 70-30, but it can be flexed depending on what the system's getting. The majority of it, though, is reserved for promoting hot read data. So folks who might have, you know, a photo library, for example. So if Mike, in your case, if I had my photo library there and I was wanting to edit off of it, it's not going to go very fast because it's a NAS and it's not meant for video editing. But if you had it out there and you wanted to be able to like look at all your thumbnails. Most photo libraries have millions of little files. Those little millions of files, the ones that are most frequently accessed, will live on the MSATA card because they're most frequently accessed, and you'll get great performance benefits by having it there.
Yeah, and I noticed with the 5N, it's got a power fail protection in it. So is that there more so to write memory buffers back out to disk before it shuts itself down, or?
All right, another thing that you should not try at home, folks. I'm about to abruptly yank the power cord out of my storage device. Now,
you saw it here, folks.
Yeah.
If you know how storage works, this should give you a sick feeling in your stomach. You should feel really creepy because what I'm about to do, I pull the power cord out. Off goes my lights. The thing about a Drobo, though, is we virtualize, and I'm going to plug it back in. Now notice my blue lights are still very faint here. We use the battery backup protection inside to gracefully shut the system down. Because, as you might know, if I'm writing data out to a RAID device, the RAID device will acknowledge, hey system, I got your data, and then it subsequently goes and commits it to disk. I'm going to go ahead and power it back on. Back in the 80s when this concept first came out, people were holding up garlic and like they thought it was, you know, absolutely crazy that you would allow your computer to talk to something that told you it wrote it and then it wrote it later. Turns out nowadays everybody trusts it. But one of the things that you need to be aware of is during an abrupt power failure, if you have data in flight and it doesn't make it committed to disk, your computer believes it's committed to disk, but it's actually not. And that can cause some major corruption issues. With a Drobo, we have battery backed up cache now in every Drobo that we make. And that's something that's unheard of for a product that's, in this case, $599. You find it in products that are $5,000 and up, the type that IT people buy. But you don't really see it in consumer-oriented products. And for us, we're really all about data protection. We protect you from hard drive failures and make it super easy. With this latest generation of products, we wanted to make sure that battery backup was included throughout the entire product line, so you're also protected from that thing. I'm going to guess that most people don't have a UPS. Look at me. The cobbler's children have no shoes. I can point down the floor. I don't have a UPS, right? So I should have a UPS for sure. I live in California. We don't have a lot of power outages, but anyway, I feel less at risk now that I have the 5N because it will not suffer a corruption in that case. So now I'm back up and running. Now look, all my lights are green. I'm back to normal. Had you done that with almost any other device on the planet, it probably wouldn't have come out that fast, and you might have a lot of weird things going on. So it's definitely cool to have that battery backup going on.
And is that new just for the 5 series, or is that just in the 5N?
No, it's in the 5N.
In the 5D.
It's in the 5D. We've always had it for our 8-bay products and above, the ones that are a little bit more expensive that businesses buy. And what we found was people told us, hey, thanks, Drobo, you made it so easy. Guess what? I'm using your little products at work, too. Okay, we call it the Drobo invasion, right? We never really built them to be taken to work. But anyway, there's a take your daughter to work day in April here up in the U.S. Do you have that down there, Andrew, too, where you take your daughters to work in Australia?
It tends to be frowned upon, but yeah, they do it occasionally.
Okay, well, we have an official day for that here in the U.S.
Productivity goes up when you do bring your kids in, though.
Yeah.
But what about if you work from home? Productivity goes down. That's what I noticed.
Do the washing, hang it up.
To answer your question, Jim, we added that battery backup feature because we really wanted everybody to have that protection from an abrupt power failure. And and my guess is one day as these things become more innovated and we find less expensive ways to implement these technologies, we can go ahead and do it. So Drobo not only kicked up the speed and allowed support for SSDs, we lowered the price by $100 and added battery backup. It's our way to try to make this a popular product. And our hope is that people buy it. If you want to buy a product that you can geek out on, tweak everything, Drobo's not for you. I'm sorry to tell you. If you want something where you just set it and forget it and it works great, and then you geek out on all the stuff that creates your data, awesome. Get yourself a Drobo.
What sort of runtime does that battery give you? Is it a couple minutes? Is it 5 minutes? Or does it depend on the disk stack or?
No, it's a great question. It's not intended to give you a very long time to continue operating. The assumption is that if you are, especially in our direct attach products, a lot of people might have them connected to a laptop, for example, where if the power goes out, it doesn't go out, right? But Drobos don't run off bus power. So we want to make sure that we provided enough time to do a graceful shutdown. So in the event that you had a direct attach Drobo, we would start to then tell the computer, hey, I can't accept anything else because I'm shutting down right now. And then you'd have a consistent data set in that case. It's not intended to give you a long run time, but rather just to make sure all the data is gracefully shut down. But you'd be surprised. You need a fair amount of juice in there to keep 5 7200 RPM drives running.
Spinning to right out,
Yeah, while you go ahead and execute a graceful shutdown.
Yeah, okay. Because, I mean, you could see that people would use it to, I need to move it from this side of the room to the other side of the room, so, hey, I'll just unplug the power from here, quickly run across the room, plug it back in, plug the cables in, and, cross my fingers and hope to die that it's not going to die in the meantime.
What I'd say is put the darn thing into standby mode. It's not that hard. Go in there, tools, shut down, and then and move it there. It would be a best practice to go ahead and move it that way. Now, the Drobo Mini, on the other hand, it is a portable device where we don't yet have a battery pack announced for it, but a lot of folks have asked for that. Hey, can I have a battery pack that kind of is the same size and it kind of sits on it, kind of like a coaster? Yeah, that's a kind of a cool idea that would give you, in that case, Andrew, multiple hours of continuous runtime, especially for people for photographers who are out there. If you're on location,
Jim's got something.
Shooting, then you want to go ahead. Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then you want to go ahead and move when you're out there in the field. Interestingly enough, Cotton Colson, a guy who shoots for National Geographic, took a Drobo Mini with him on his Antarctica expedition recently.
Oh, wow.
He just uploaded some really cool images. Now, naturally, it's not all of his raw stuff, not all of his really heavy stuff. He's uploading them via satellite internet between Argentina and Antarctica. But he's totally loving his Drobo Mini because he's able to really move around the ship where he needs to when he's doing his work.
Now, Mario, I've been actually saving 2.5-inch hard drives for a Mini, and it hasn't shown up on my front door yet. So just saying. Also, John and Mike out in chat have asked about noise and heat. I have the FS, so I have the old network attached one sitting here on the desk, and it runs full time, 24/7. I never hear it. I never feel any heat from it. Is the 5D or the 5N I assume similar, but talk about that from a heat and sound.
Here's the thing. You know what I love about the internet is that history is out there for everybody to go ahead and see. So I'll be the first one to admit it, folks. When I first came to Drobo 2.5 years ago, some of the products were a little bit noisy and a little bit hot. It should be in slow. Look at all these bad words we were doing with, right? And now we have a great new 4-letter word that starts with an F. Fast. You know, not the other one.
A lot of 4-letter words tonight.
So there goes your family rating, Jim.
It's a family show. Don't worry, it's a family show. And we also do have we really made the devices a lot more quiet. So the old Drobo S, the one that you gave away, Jim, in a past promotion, it was the loudest of those products, and we've cut its decibels by about 30% in going to the Drobo 5D. And the 5N shares the same design as the 5D from a mechanicals perspective. So it is even more quiet than your FS by a small smidge. So it'll continue to be that toaster size box. I'm on literally a laptop mic here with no other sound, and my Drobo's sitting there chugging away doing stuff, and you probably haven't even heard it the whole time I've been talking. So the Drobo Mini, however, is a little bit louder. Now, people are saying, well, how the heck's that possible? Well, for those folks who stayed awake in physics, the smaller you make something and the smaller you make the fans, the faster they need to run in order to move the same amount of air. Thus, you've got more decibel output as a result. Now, is it noisy? If you're running it in a studio like yours, Jim, you might find that it wouldn't want to be sitting on the desk right next to the microphone. But we have DJs who are currently using it, and it's in their sound studio mixing on a 2-meter cable 2 meters away from their workstation, which happens to be far enough away from their mics anyway. Odds are the computer you connect the Drobo to is louder. If it's a desktop computer, it is louder than the Drobo.
Yeah, no, it sits on the desk, Mara. It's literally an arm's length from me. I mean, the microphone's pointing this direction. The Drobo sits right down here. I've never even thought about the sound of it. I mean, I've got a pogo plug and a IC dock enclosure that sit on top of it, and they don't make enough noise for me to even worry about it. So yeah, the FS is quiet. If the 5D and the 5N are even quieter, then yeah, I think you can put it on your desktop and be fine with it. Guys, other questions for Mario?
I just don't know why I didn't ask for one earlier. I need one of these. This is great. No.
Well, I want to plug a bunch of other ones. A lot of these things are given away on the internet. Hey, one of these days, Jim, if you guys have a interesting contest, I know you guys are reinvesting back into the show. We'll talk about something. Come up with a funny idea, because to me, giveaways can be kind of boring. But if you have a fun thing that might be make it useful. Yeah, let's figure out a way to go.
We'll think of maybe if folks head out to our Facebook page. So go out to facebook.com/groups/theaverageguy, and if you've got an idea, somebody start a post out there. If you've got a fun, interesting contest so that we can give away one of these 5Ns, Mario said he will ship it my way and we'll ship it your way. And that would be great to get some stuff going around a contest like that. Guys, any other questions? We've had Mario almost an hour, and I want to respect his time. Any other questions for Mario before we let him go?
Yeah, we could do a joint promotion, Jim.
Ooh, yeah, I might. Unfortunately, you wouldn't be able to win. I mean,
No, that's fine. That's fine. I'm like Jim. I'm giving back to my community. I'm not looking to win.
As long as I can win, I'm cool. We're good.
Yeah, there is a question coming from the live chat. Will the Mini take a 15mm drive?
Fantastic question. It's a great question, and to give you guys a little bit of insight, in fact, Jim was one of the first guys to see one of our prototype Minis back in the day. Remember that last year, Jim?
Yeah.
He happened to be in San Jose where he grew up. He came by the office just to kind of check some stuff out, and our original design concept, if everybody remembers back in the day from Tower PCs, that 5 1/4 inch drive bay. Yep. We wanted to create a package that could fit into a 5 1/4 drive bay. So 4 2.5 inch drives plus the associated carrierless drive mechanism. With a Drobo Mini, it actually clicks in and out like an SD card. Your 2.5-inch drives, it's totally cool. A very, very cool design. The unfortunate thing about that, though, is that you're limited to 9.5 millimeter drives or shorter. So the tallest 15 millimeter drives you cannot use in a Drobo Mini. That being said, most people use the Mini as a portable type of device, and as a result, it's big for what it does as a portable drive. It's comparable size what you'd have with like an external single drive. Just provides you the kind of protection there. And we're anticipating, Seagate and others coming out with 1.5 terabyte drives in a 9.5 millimeter form factor in the near future, which would then give you a little bit more capacity there.
Yeah, and I know a lot of photographers who use that too. We just, we had a lady. She didn't use one of yours, but it's been a perfect use case. She was out on a cattle drive, photograph on a cattle drive for like 7 days. The Drobo Mini would have been a perfect device for her to take in.
Oh, well, her horse probably could have carried a 5D, but you're right.
Mario, another question in chat about being able to lock the drives in the case. Has there been any thought about, some kind of data security as physically being able to lock these things up so that people can't take the drives out of them?
That's a fantastic thing that we have to consider in the entire design center around the products. Even our most expensive products for IT customers don't have a locking mechanism. And our philosophy is that most of the people who are deploying these are going to put them in a place where there's some semblance of physical security. Now, the Drobo Mini, because you carry it around, is probably the one most susceptible. But generally speaking, you'll have some amount of physical security, and we didn't want to complicate how you would take drives out and replace drives. Nothing worse than losing your key and you had a drive failure and you can't replace it because you can't find the key to unlock the darn the drive slot. So we erred on the side of ease of use, but it was a specific design consideration. If your requirements are for kind of a locked-in thing, we have a Kensington lock on the back to keep you from carrying the entire unit away. But yes, you can take all the drives out. So that would be something that would require you to keep it in a secure spot. So while it's quiet enough to exist on your desk and totally good-looking enough that you wouldn't want to hide it, go ahead and put it in that locked filing cabinet if you need to, and run the gigabit Ethernet through a little hole there if you want to keep it physically secure as far as that goes.
All right, chat room. This will be your last opportunity for any more questions that we might have missed, guys.
There's another question coming in, Mario, and that is 3.5-inch drive. So the 5D 5N. What drive would you recommend? Would you recommend, say, the Western Digital Red over the Western Digital Green, or?
All right. Yeah, this is by far the most popular question. Real quick plug for Drobo, by the way, drobo.com/any of our product pages. After 15 seconds, a live chat pops up. And we have people that answer this live chat. Guess where they are? Well, they're in San Jose, California, but starting next month, that's going to be actually operated out of our call center in Omaha, Nebraska. Whoa, look at that. I mean, Drobo going large. I got to say, Jim's probably the one who lured us there. I mean, Nebraska, the best place.
Darn right. That's the best thing about Omaha.
Good for an Atkins-friendly diet, which I'm always down with. It's great. Anyway, get to us on live chat. We're happy to answer your questions. These are not answered by anyone other than Drobo employees, which is a cool thing. Anyway, it's the most popular chat question. And really, it's kind of like, I like to say that it's like buying gas, but it's not like buying gas. People think that, I can put 87 octane versus 89 versus 91. Does it really make a difference in my car? Folks who are car aficionados would say, yes, I got to get my premium, right? But it'll still run on the lower grade gas. There's a much bigger difference, though, from a hard drive perspective. Now, here's a little dirty little secret, guys. Don't tell anybody I told you this. All hard drives are born in the exact same place.
What?
Literally. No, they're all born in the exact same place. And you guys probably already knew this, right? And they go through school like all of us do. The ones that test exceptionally well go into the honors classes, and they become valedictorians and are rated for server-grade applications at very high speeds with very high reliability. The ones that fall asleep in class, they don't turn in their homework, they do really poorly. Guess what? They still get released. They just get released as lower capacity drives that are slower and not as reliable. So that Western Digital Green drive, it's a fantastic drive, but it got through school, making C grades. Whereas that Western Digital Red drive got through school as an A+ student. So it depends on which ones you want to use. Yes, to hire an A+ student coming out of school, you're going to pay more for them if they're working for you, right? So the Western Digital Red drives are a little more expensive. And the reason they even came out with that line, by the way, is because the rigors of working in a drive enclosure like a Drobo, it's an environment that's much more intense than a desktop PC. Therefore, you need some drives that'll stand up to the test, so to speak. So anyway, 5,400 RPM drives will make a Drobo go slower. 7,200 RPM drives will make a Drobo go faster. It kind of comes down to that. We happen to use a lot of Seagate drives. Barracuda 7,200 RPMs. If you were to buy a drive bundle, for example, from Drobo's online store, those are the drives that you would get inside of it. But yeah, Western Digital, Seagate, Samsung, well, for the older ones, Hitachi's, all those drives work great in a Drobo. And 4 terabyte drives also work just as well. So any Drobo that you buy works with 3 terabytes, 4 terabytes. When the bigger ones come out, guess what? Pull an old one out, pop it in, it'll work automatically without a firmware update.
That's nice.
Cool.
All right, guys, any more questions? Have we missed anything else in chat? I like the Atkins reference. Thanks, Mario, for anybody who missed that. Of course, Omaha is the land of steaks, and of course, the steak is the linchpin of the Atkins diet. So nice reference there.
Absolutely. Hey, I didn't know that you could talk about storage for this long. I mean, this is really exciting. I thought I was the only geek that loved talking about this stuff. So it's great to be on the program. I really appreciate the invitation, guys. Maybe we'll come back if we want to cook up a contest. So, hey, I got to be honest. Jim did not organize the idea of a giveaway in advance. But if a cool idea comes up, let's see if we can't muster up something. Here, we just started shipping them today, though. So if it takes me a little bit to get you one, don't hold it against me. But that'll allow you guys to come up with some good ideas on how you might want to orchestrate a giveaway.
Well, I've got a giveaway already lined up for early February, so let's shoot maybe the second half of February or early March. We can put something together and partner with you guys and see if we can give one of these away.
All right.
Mario, thanks for taking the time. I appreciate it on a Thursday night, and thanks for coming in. You are welcome to jump out at this point, and I appreciate you coming in.
Thanks,
and then
everybody.
Make sure this is the model interview. Remember, you said that. You've never talked about storage any longer. Make sure you pimp this out there along the Drobo network.
And this is the first the first interview regarding the Drobo 5N. So you heard it first, live from Drobo on the AverageGuy.tv. So that's great.
Thanks, Mario. Have a great evening.
Cheers.
Thanks. Nice to meet you, Mario.
Yeah, thanks, Mario.
All right.
Very good.
Yeah, some good stuff there, and I want to say thanks to the chat room as well. Some great questions out of chat, and you guys asked some really good questions. So appreciate you being out there tonight. I know a lot of folks came out to kind of hear about the Drobo. It is one of those, at least in our community, it's a little of a watershed at times as people land on one side or the other. There's others. Although at $599, the price has come down. The 5D is at $849 right now, although I imagine they'll need to drop that price a little bit. It is Thunderbolt, and part of the price was the cable initially. $50 of that cost was the Thunderbolt cable. But still. And
I will say this, your site has been having some trouble, but Seth, it's back up. It's working now. So
yeah, I got a little locked out. I was going to try to help with those chat room questions, but I couldn't.
Yeah, we've had Christian actually ping me right in the middle. I gave him the night off, and unfortunately, he's out there firefighting for the site. If you guys have had any problems, if you're listening live, we may have had a few problems keeping the site up. And but Christian says he's working on it, so hang tight in there. And you can always go to livestream.com/theaverageguy. And that also works as a backup if you ever need to get to our video or YouTube.
The cool thing about the way you have it, because you're actually streaming through Livestream and the chat is from Livestream, if you have the page up, so if you're listening to us now, you're obviously, it wasn't a problem. But if you had the page up like I did, you've never lost contact.
Right.
It's if you refreshed, you lost it, but now it appears to be back up.
Good.
That's what happened to me.
Well, hopefully you guys didn't get messed up in the process, Seth. Thanks for doing that. Hey, real quick, if you're just joining us and you got through the interview with Mario Blandini, Mario, again, thanks for doing that. And, of course, just real quick, let me introduce you guys. And, of course, Andrew Morris all the way over on the left. And Andrew's my right-hand man on the podcast and has been here since day one, almost since day one. And then a guy we haven't seen a lot of, but I want to see more of on the podcast, of course, that's Ces White. And I'm trying to steal him away from JPEG to RAW with every... Oh, crap, Mike's on the show.
Whoops. Glad to be here.
It's good to have you, Ces. And then, of course, all the way to the right, Mike Howard, JPEG to RAW podcast, and a good partner here at theaverageguy.tv. Mike, how are you?
Doing fine, and we would be happy to partner with you on a Drobo 5N giveaway and
all right.
5D giveaway and come up with some great ideas.
Yeah, that'd be great.
We mentioned that, and he mentioned that their photographers, as long as they can get past the price, that is a great device for them because they need some kind of storage, protected storage. And while a lot of photographers are tech savvy, they just don't want to spend the time doing that because, like you talked to Ces, they got a lot going on, and fooling around with tech, building computers at home is just not what a lot of them want to spend their time doing. They got, that doesn't make them any money. They want to be doing things that make them money.
Well, and at some point you need to stop screwing around. You're right, Mike. Photographers aren't necessarily tech guys, right? You got to stop screwing around building your own stuff and just put something in that works. That's one of the things I like about the Drobo is I really don't mess with it much. I've put it in. It's on the network. I've got drives in it, and I've actually used it as drive storage. So if I've got an extra drive, I just throw that in there, and then when I need it, I just pop it out and take it. We did that for the meetup that we did for the home server show. I took some drives out. I needed them for an application. I just started yanking drives out of the Drobo until it said, "Hey, you've taken enough out. Don't do that anymore."
Well, Kathleen Bowie, who's our one of the co-hosts on JPEG to RAW, she bought one, and she's pretty tech savvy, but she probably doesn't want to spend any time doing that. So she bought one, and it's been working great for her.
Yeah, and my big hiccup is that I'm a procrastinator, and so I am going to procrastinate to the point that something tragic happens, and I have to. Something tragic happens. So, but I really need to get on the Drobo bandwagon. I mean, you guys have talked about it enough, and I definitely believe it's worth it. Especially with that $5.99 price tag, with it coming down, I think that's a good go.
And drive prices are coming down. I bought a 2 terabyte drive tonight for $99. So the drive prices are coming down, which brings down the total cost of using something like that.
Even if you go with an HP microserver, so we've all been big fans of the N40L, and if you're joining us live from JPEG to RAW, we're going to talk some nerdy stuff. Hang tight with us. We'll get back to some average guy stuff here in a second, but a lot of us bought that N40L. That price point's $250, $300 right there, but it comes with nothing. So you have to install an OS on it. If you do Windows Home Server OS, you could get it away as cheap as $50, but you kind of got to know what you're doing when you're setting up the server. It doesn't come with drives. I mean, it comes with an OS drive. So you're probably $300 into a unit that is going to be a Windows system to manage. And Mike, you and I and Ces and Andrew can probably all do that, manage that. But Kathleen, are we really going to expect Kathleen to set up Windows Server 2012 Essentials or Windows Home Server 2011 and manage it?
No, for her, it's the perfect thing. You walk by, you see a red light on the device. That tells you red's bad, and it lights up where the drive is bad. So she pulls off the cover, takes that drive out, and either goes buys another one or has another one and puts it in there. Plus, with mini RAIDs, you need to get similar sized drives, or else they're going to bring it down to the lowest size drive. For her, she just sticks in any drive she has, and then over time she can put more of them in there. I don't think she completely filled hers up. I think she only put 2 drives in there, and then later when she can afford it, she'll put in another drive. I don't know where she's at now, but that's a beautiful thing it allows you to do, is to build that storage up over time too.
Yeah, especially important for photographers, right, where you're continually adding. And I'm going to add podcasters to the list. Monday we're going to talk to Ray Ortega from the Podcaster Studio, and he is a podcast producer. So he does it professionally as well as a hobby. And Mike, actually, since I started saving my audio files in an AIFF, I think that's the right file format. It's an Apple lossless format. Mm-hmm. They've multiplied 10 times the size of what they were MP3, right? Or I used to just cut them right out into MP3. I keep them in a lossless format, and then I'm using Adobe Audition to convert those into MP3 once I'm done with the editing. It's a lot easier to edit in Audacity than it is in Audition, and easier for me. Let me say, there's people say, oh, that's easy, you should just do it all in Audition. Well, I don't. I find Audacity very easy to use, and I just save it in lossless and then kick the MP3 out in Audition. But those files are big. I mean, a typical a typical file will be very, very large, just audio.
Sure.
So I need to grow, even for podcasters, that needs to grow with.
I just pulled up my file and I got 1.27 terabyte of files in my podcast folder.
Wow.
Yeah. Now you keep a couple different versions of video and audio, right, in that folder?
Yeah, so what I do is, we record at a pretty high bit rate, and we record in, even though like the video we're seeing here is not HD, I'm still recording at 720p because of the some of the photos we show, some of the web pages we show. It helps with the definition. So I might have a 2 to 3 gig file, the raw file, every show for there. So I have that. Then I'm going to produce 3 versions of the video, one that goes up on YouTube and 2 that goes on iTunes or wherever else, and then you got the audio file. So for every show there's a minimum of the original audio recording, the original video recording, 3 other edited videos, and then the final audio. So it adds up pretty quick.
Yeah.
And that's at a minimum for each show.
But the idea is still the same, that you're building your data consistently weekly, right? You do a weekly podcast, you do all these photo shoots. It doesn't mean you have to buy all your hard drives at the same time and load them all in and build it, and you have the convenience of adding to it. One of the things I did want to mention, Andrew, I want to get to your question here in just a second that you posted in chat. One of the things that I liked about the Drobo, one is they've had a very good track record. They've had broken stuff go out, and I hear about it when it goes out broken. Somebody tweets me, I get an email, right? I'm the Drobo, I'm the Drobo fanboy.
Evangelist.
Yeah, they hammer me. And that's okay. I get that. In almost all cases, Drobo has been really, really good about drop shipping another unit or fixing that right away. I mean, that happens, right? There's failures in units of things that go out. I just talked 3 weeks ago about the Miscus, that little Bluetooth transmitter that I'm using for my car. We talked about it about 3 weeks ago. Mike Fauché recommended it. I recommended it. It's broken right now. So those kind of things break, right? I mean, I don't know if I left it in the cold or if it just, what have you. Things break, and we've had some Drobos break. I know Jose Ortiz got one that broke, and I believe they shipped him a new one out, right away. And then the other important thing to know is if your Drobo does go bad, don't just start yanking drives. Call support, and at the very minimum, pull the drives out and mark them in the order that you pulled them out in. Because if they send you another Drobo, you can just put those drives back in the order they gave them to you, and it will migrate that data over. Andrew, you had a question about bare metal restore, right? Backup. Drobo doesn't really address bare metal restore like you do a Windows Home Server at all. Right, they don't have.
I don't think any of them do, from what I can tell.
Well, they're all moving away from it because it's really hard to do. All the NAS vendors we've talked to over time have tried, and they go, can we just back up your data? can that be enough?
And I think with the move to Windows 8, I think it's becoming less critical. But when you work in the enterprise space, if you lose your enterprise laptop, the time it takes to reconfigure is horrific. I think if you're in the home environment, your data and your configuration is less critical. Like it doesn't stop you making money unless you're a home business.
Right.
But if you're I back up my enterprise device at home because if I don't and I lose it, then I lose the week to get it back. So
I think it's a good point, and none of them are really doing it very well, with the exception of Microsoft, surprisingly, in both the 2011 product and their 2012 Essentials product, still do really, and even in the version 1, which is not supported as of last week, but even in the version 1, that bare metal restore works. I mean, that's why I got into the Windows Home Server space to begin with, is because they were the only ones doing really good bare metal restore. So no, Drobo doesn't. You're not going to buy a Drobo. In fact, they flirted with some backup software for a while. They had I think, what was it called? Drobo
PC backup.
Yeah, maybe.
It was a very unique name. I found it on their website earlier.
Yeah, that they don't even support that software anymore.
Yeah,
And so other Jim in chat says, what about Cronus True Image and putting the system image on your Drobo? Absolutely, that would work. That works. In fact, I use a Cronus. Rich O'Neill had got me going on a Cronus, and he and I mess with that from time to time. Cronus is great backup software. You can get it for $15 on Newegg in most cases when they're running sales, and that will do a good backup. And then the Drobo is just the target location where it goes.
And the other question, which I was going to ask Mario, which we sort of ran out of time for, is how do you back the thing up? It's like everything, you get to a certain amount of capacity, and how do you back it up? I know Synology, you can plug a disk pack into the back of it and run a backup to it, but is Drobo's preferred method to have an offsite and do an offsite sync, or
what would be nice is if they were to let you load an app on it, like a Crash Plan app or something like that.
Yeah, I didn't specifically ask Mario when he was on here because he asked me not to, but he's not here, so I can talk about it now. They also, Drobo has gone through a whole rendition of apps, and if you go way back 2 years ago, they have an app ecosystem for the current FS. And they really tried to make apps work, and they just didn't really take off. They just didn't get used. Because think about this. You're talking, you sell this easy storage device to someone and say, it's just drop dead simple. But we have these apps now, and they're not going to use those apps. I mean, and then the enthusiasts are going to build their own RAID, right? I mean, we've experienced that here.
They're saying in chat that Drobo does support Crash Plan.
Well, it's not natively. You can't install Crash Plan on a Drobo. You can install Crash Plan on another PC that points towards the Drobo, and then use the Drobo as a.
Yeah, it is a it can be a destination.
It can absolutely be a destination.
Yeah,
and I could.
What I'm thinking is of the use case I was thinking of. Maybe y'all were thinking of something different. Is a photographer has it, attached to their computer on their network, and you're putting your photos on it, and the Drobo is syncing it with Crash Plan's offsite servers.
Right. Yeah. No, nothing like that. You can absolutely use, especially if you directly attach the Drobo to a PC, then the PC sees it as just attached storage and uses it as a destination. So then you can either save to it or save off of it, like using a Crash Plan. You could also create. Now this is okay. Tech alert, right? This is a little more nerdy, but you can create a virtual space. So say you're in Windows Home Server 2011 or 2012, you can create a VHD on the Drobo, right? It sees it on the network. You can create the space over there. You can store things there, and then Crash Plan on the server will see that folder and back it up to Crash Plan. So you can use Drobo as a target for those, and I've done that. I've tested that. I've got a 1
Did it
terabyte.
work for you?
Yeah,
because mine wasn't stable. So what you're talking about is if you, in a normal case with a Drobo that is a network attached, not a direct attached through FireWire or a USB or Thunderbolt or anything like that. So a network attached storage, Crash Plan can't use it as a destination, right? Or I don't even know if it sees it in if I'd have to go look. Yeah, I think when you pull up as a destination or something to back up, that it won't do it. But what you're doing is creating a virtual hard drive that is targeted there. Yeah, I tried that, and I tried to transfer a bunch of data, not with a Drobo, with something else.
Okay.
Tried to send a bunch of data over to it, and it was not stable. I'd wake up the next morning and find out that it lost the connection.
Not so good. To be honest with you, I haven't thoroughly tested it. At the end of the year, one of my New Year's resolutions was to get my data fixed. And so I actually now have one complete set of all my data in the cloud using Crash Plan. Yeah. I'm also going to back it up to the Pogo plug, and I also wanted to test this VHD idea, and I just haven't got to it yet. So
it'd be interesting to see if you get the VHD to be reliable and quick enough, because for me, I wasn't so worried about the speed because I can just let it run without, my servers run without me having to go over there and just watch them. They just run, and if they're a little bit slow, I don't care because I'm not waiting on them. But I was concerned about the reliability. I was not having a reliable storage with that. If it's reliable for you, let me know.
I'll have to test it.
That'd be interesting, because then it could be that maybe it was something I did wrong.
I'll have to test it.
Okay.
Somebody had also mentioned a Synology, and you know what? Mario would probably debate me on this, but Synology is a little smarter of a device, and is actually set up to handle more of an apps ecosystem.
Okay, don't say that until he gives us a device to give away.
He's not listening anymore.
He's going to come back. He downloads this stuff on his podcatcher.
I doubt it.
Drobo is the best.
Mario, if you get to this point and you hear this, you can call me. You've got my number, and you can chew me out. I'm sure that's not going to happen. But the Drobo, while they have it's got some intelligence built on. He talked about the ARM processors that are on there. They have not yet built out an ecosystem that will allow you to bring some of those software devices. Synology's got the Drobo in that area. It's just a little bit more, the infrastructure is just a little bit stronger. So
yeah.
That being said, if you want to go, you go with it, whatever you want. I like the Drobo from a simplicity, from an average guy standpoint. I just really like it, and it's one of those kinds of things that, in my case, I've had 3 in my house now. 2 I had for a while, and 1 I'm using right now. I've never had a single problem with them, and I tell you, if I did, they've always just worked for me, and I've used them a lot. So
I think the key, because I've heard some photographers who have complained about it, and I will say this: there is no one box. Drobo, Synology, ReadyNaz, any of those things, no one box that is a backup, by itself. If that's the only place you have your photos stored, you're asking for trouble.
Yeah, you're still screwed.
Yeah. So this is just, it protects you from single drive failure, maybe double drive failure. But if somebody picks it up and walks out of your house with it, or your house burns to the ground, that is still no good. My rule, and I don't know what they're saying 3-2-1 out there, and maybe I'm using the 3-2-1 as in the wrong way. But my way of saying it is, the original file, a local backup, and an offsite backup, and that's what you need to have. Those 3 need to be part of your backup strategy, and you can go bigger than that if you want.
So, Seth, what's your 3-2-1 backup? How well are you protecting the data? Because I know you're making all kinds of media. What's your setup? Are you you the typical? I'm going to put you on the spot, man. Right.
I hate to talk about this right now, mostly because I am just in a bad situation. So right now, I've got my local, and then I've also got an online backup that I'm switching.
Crash plan, baby.
Yeah,
I've heard there's this one called Jimmy Drive.
Plan. See, you had to say something, didn't you? You had to. I had a little something or another come up, and then I tried to look it up online. I was like, dang it, nobody knows about this thing, because it's like just a few people that are on it. I was like, Crash Plan is like $1 more.
And so you went with Jimmy Drive, didn't you?
If only someone had told you. If only someone had told you.
If only 2 people had told me. Okay. Who both had podcasts. Yeah, sure. Well, okay. So yeah, those are my two locations right now, and Jimmy Drive is kind of, for me personally, limping along. I make a lot of data, and I back up random things on Box and Dropbox, just depending on what it is. But it's not. I mean, obviously, you understand those work way differently. So
right.
That's all I've got going on. So I am one of those people that, as you said, I'm asking for trouble, and I know it. I'm trying to get out of that boat.
We're gonna, next time you're on the podcast, Seth, before I let you on, I'm gonna ask you if you fixed your.
No, just kidding.
I'm gonna ask you. And we're not going to let you talk until you. No, it's not true at all.
Yeah, no, I am going to work it out though. Actually, while we've been on here, I've been looking up. I'm a fan of Seagate, and I've been looking up Barracuda drives on Tiger Direct and Newegg and online, just seeing what the prices are, just kind of flirting with that. So I'm gonna build. I'm gonna get in the Drobo boat with all you guys.
Yeah, check into it. Look into it, and it's certainly worth a look. All right, well we've hammered Drobo enough. Thanks, Mario, for coming out and for being part of the podcast this evening, and and it's good to see. I'm very excited about the new price point for Drobo and some of the things they're doing. It was cool a year ago. I did get behind the scenes look. I went out to San Jose and I got a behind the scenes look at Drobo, and they have a nice facility out there, and he showed me some of the prototype stuff, and I did get to see the Mini before it came out, which was very cool. So I need to make a trip back to the my homelands and see it again. But Mario, thanks for coming on, and I appreciate you being out here. Andrew, I want to start with a story from you because I think this is very intriguing. That the Raspberry Pi has shipped over 700,000 units to date, and the designer didn't think they'd sell more than 1,000 when it came out.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
I'm on record as saying I need a Raspberry Pi like I need a hole in my head at this point, just because I've got enough things to do. But I assume, Mike, you don't have one, and Sess, you don't have one at this point, right? Neither. That's not of interest to you. But Andrew, did you pick one up at one point? I think you're muted, Andrew. Sorry.
What do you know? I was being a good host.
You were. Good job. Have you picked one up?
No. Look, I looked at it and thought, do I need one? And then I said I do need one. And then I looked at it again and thought, but to do what? So I never ended up getting one.
Yeah, I was talking with John Zadler about it because we did if you're interested, we did, Chris Barnes, John Zadler, and myself, we did a Raspberry Pi. We called it In the Beginning. And we spent about an hour and a half talking about all the things that were current with the Raspberry Pi at that point in time. This was back in the fall, and you can just go out to theaverageguy.tv and look that up. It's in the Home Tech feed if you want to listen to it again. So we talked about some of those things. And I asked John the other day, are we going to do, should we do another podcast? And he said to me, I don't know if there's enough material to really do another podcast at this point. People are messing around with them. They're having jams, where they're getting together and doing stuff with them. They've sold a lot of units. I've seen some cool things. They've put them in radios. They've made radios out of them, or media centers. They take old radios. I think I saw this on a Twitch show. They took an old time radio and took the guts out and put the Raspberry Pi in and made a media center type, for music and stuff, or loaded up. But I have yet to see any real commercial or again, the idea though is to get these in the hands of kids so they could code, right?
Yeah. And to be honest, I don't think kids are into that anymore. I know where they're coming from, but show me any kid who, if you say, hey, look, you can program this to do A, B, C, D, and E, they're going to go, yeah, just hand me my DS.
Well, are they too spoiled? Is that what you're saying, that we've spoiled them with really good consumer-grade technology and they have no ingenuity left in them? Is that what you're saying, Andrew?
I don't think they're interested.
I think they're too busy designing 8-bit Minecraft games.
My kids did that for a long time, but they don't do that much anymore. They're playing other games. But yeah, I see your point, right, in this, that they are fairly distracted with that which already exists, right? When we were messing around with Commodore 64 and the Timex Sinclair 1000 and some of those other things, there was nothing.
Yeah, exactly. And we were buying the PC magazine and typing in 300 lines of BASIC to make a box drive around a screen when you use the arrow keys.
Yeah, which we thought was cool.
We thought that was awesome. Yeah, you used to get your dad in and say, "Hey, look, I'm playing Pong and I wrote it."
Yeah, and other Jim is saying in chat that his son loves his Raspberry Pi, even though he's a Minecrafter and a DS head, and he uses his Pi maybe 3 hours a week. So, wow. And other Jim, is he doing? Can you give us kind of an idea of what he's doing on it? Coding or what kind of application he's doing? Zadler had hooked it up to kind of a
LED panel.
Yeah, thank you. And could get stuff to come across it. So he thought that was pretty cool, which, it's the beginning of something.
Yeah.
He says he sits there with his Python book and complains that the version syntax is different.
So there are people out there who actually use Python.
Yeah, I think you can on this, right? I mean, it really is. It can really make a very hardcore web server or Apache or some of those types of things.
We run it out in the enterprise for our management tools, but it's not. I've never seen it adopted widely in the enterprise.
Well, very interesting. You know, I'd be interested to hear if you're listening to this show and you're a Raspberry Pi user and you've bought one, you're doing maybe how you're using it. Jump out into our Facebook page, facebook.com/group/theaverageguy, and let us know how you're using it. I'd love to hear some great things that are being done with it that, let some folks know what you're doing. I'd love to hear how you're using the Raspberry Pi and what's going on. I don't have time. It's another thing to learn. And I feel bad as a Windows Home Server MVP. I don't spend enough time on my Windows Home Server, so to spend time with the Raspberry Pi just isn't going to work. Speaking of not having time to do anything, let's talk about Bob from Verizon, who outsourced his job to China. So he took his well-paying job here, got a couple guys in China, paid 1/5 of his salary to them, and got it done until somebody caught him.
Yep.
This is real?
This is a real deal, yeah. Yeah. You didn't hear about that?
No, that's crazy.
And he was widely regarded as being the best coder in the company.
They said, "Why is this guy so good?"
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. So he would let Chinese consultants log in, right? I think they caught it because there were packets coming through from China, probably through the VPN.
Nothing bad could come of this.
Yeah.
Let's let the Chinese come in and program.
It says the VPN log showed him logged in from China, yet the employee is right there sitting at the desk. So they couldn't figure out why the logs were showing from China, and yet Bob, not his real name, of course, Bob was sitting at his desk, doing nothing. I mean, what would you do all day if you were
play Minecraft? So how long did this go on for?
Yeah. How long?
Let me look here.
Well, looking at the Verizon report, which I've just thrown into the.
And Verizon released this to the public. I think I would be quiet about it if I was Verizon.
Well, I'm not sure it came from them directly.
Oh.
Yeah, it's actually on their website in their security blog.
Okay.
It says it was only
Whether it's
after
one of their clients or not.
they
It
were
might be one of their
wondering.
clients, I suspect.
Do you have a link or something?
Yeah, Andrew just threw it in chat. They were wondering why they were seeing these. They thought they had a hacker because their security group caught wind that there were these packets coming through from China. And so they started hunting down, okay, what's going on? And they said it was only after a thorough investigation that it was revealed that the culprit was not a hacker, but Bob, not his real name, and an unoffensive and quiet family man and the company top performing programmer who could be seen toiling at his desk day after day and staring diligently at his monitor.
Yeah, so the company is obviously a Verizon customer. Looking at it in a bit more detail, they're a US critical infrastructure company, and it was identified as being an unauthorized VPN connection. So they got Verizon to look into it for them. But it says here that his typical work day was 9 a.m. arrive and surf Reddit for a couple hours and watch cat videos. 11:30 go to lunch. 1 o'clock eBay. 2 o'clock-ish Facebook updates and LinkedIn. 4:30-ish end of day update management email, and 5 o'clock go home.
And again, did y'all say how long this went on for?
I'm looking here.
They're saying they're saying that the 6 months worth of logs were showing it going on over that
6
period
months?
of time. Yeah, but it's also saying that it looks like he may have had it going on across other companies as well.
Kind of sounds like a spin-off of that movie Office Space. They're conspiring against the company.
Exactly.
Now, could you have turned that? All of a sudden, we're in the Enterprise Tech Podcast. Could you have turned that? I mean, could he have gone to his? I know everyone's afraid of losing their job, but if he was able to outsource that to China, could you turn that into an opportunity to move some of that work?
Absolutely.
Overseas.
You'd be the outsourcing manager in no time.
Yeah, I mean, for a fifth of the cost. I mean, that's pretty That's pretty good just from a straight enterprise. I mean, I do enterprise management, and from a straight enterprise standpoint, that's pretty good.
Did the people he hired to do this actually do any damage, or was it just that they found something odd?
No, they were doing his work, and it was very good work.
So Verizon ought to go to those go to those people and say, "Hey, we got a job for you."
Well, once after they're done firing Bob.
Yeah.
See, if I were Bob, I would just say, hey, guys, I was just testing this out to see what our capabilities are, and just to let you know that outsourcing might be a good, viable thing for
Yeah. If I'm Bob's boss, I'm saying, you're right. You're fired. We're hiring those two guys.
Yeah, it says here, the best part, investigators had the opportunity to read through his performance reviews while working alongside HR. For the last several years in a row, he had received excellent remarks. His code was clean, well written, and submitted in a timely fashion. Quarter after quarter, his performance review noted him as being the best developer in the building.
Wow, that's a straight shooter with upper-level management written all over him.
Oh,
Hey, wait a minute now. I'm one of those upper-level managers.
Oh, man.
It's a great story. It's just one of those kind of like it's almost too funny to you think really, but it's the truth's funnier than making it up.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. What an ideas, man.
Yeah. Well, we do some outsourcing, and it's all done correctly, but it's a great. I mean, here this guy had an opportunity to really, he obviously found some guys in China that could do the work for him inexpensively and with good quality.
I want to know how he found the guys. Was that a Craigslist ad? Hey, looking for dudes in China to do my work for me.
Elance. If you don't know, Elance.
Yes, I do know Elance.
Elance.com is probably where they found that out. Real quick, Mike, I want to talk about the Java issues this week and Java security issues, because I think to get off a funny topic and maybe move on a more serious one, I haven't taken this very seriously. Should I? I mean, should I be shutting down everything that runs Java on? And Chad will probably say, yes, you don't need Java on anything. But should I be shutting things down?
The way I understand it is, if a website is going to run Java, you're going to get a pop-up that says, at least in Chrome, you're going to get a pop-up that says, hey, it wants to run Java. Is this okay? Mm-hmm. And if you're on a site and you don't think it should be running Java, just say no, or just always say no. My fear, though, so they have this, Oracle says something about it's on 3 billion or more devices, and I think they've recently said they've come up with a patch to fix it. But from my understanding, the security holes have been so massive that you got to wonder whether it is just fundamentally flawed and there is no long-term fix. Because it seems like every time you fix one, another major flaw comes through. And not that I really trust Homeland Security to be my tech advisor, but how often do you see Homeland Security coming out saying, that stop using this, we're going to stop using that? And I know in Security Now, which is one of the Twitch shows, it's been brought up a number of times, and Oracle just seems to be so slow to come out and do anything.
I don't know. Just before this one got announced, they released 2 subversions of version 7 in the space of about 6 hours, but they obviously still didn't fix it.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
go ahead, Andrew.
No, I was just going to say we've had a lot of traffic over this, and we don't know what to do with it yet. Mostly because at an enterprise level, it just doesn't seem that. Everyone's sort of sitting there going, well, it wasn't there in version 6.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people will actually go backwards, to be honest.
So you're saying that you think 6 is safer than 7, and maybe 6 is the way to go?
Yeah, this vulnerability wasn't in 6.
Because I thought that they had found vulnerabilities that crossed numerous versions.
Yeah. I think there was a couple, because there was one was it sub-release 7, and then they went 8 and 9 really quickly.
Nathaniel in chat says it doesn't affect Java-based apps like CrashPlan or Voila, but only Java web applets.
Right, and I think there's a distinction between the web applets and the Java programs like CrashPlan or something.
Right.
So when they're saying 3 billion devices, I'm sure they're including both of those types of programs.
That could be the number. That could be to the they could be pulling the 7 billion from the number of downloads they've had from version 7 of Java.
I'm sure they're using the most aggressive way to count that they can.
Yeah.
Speaking of crazy things, since we've been sitting here, I've got 2 phone calls on Skype that are from performance system maintenance.
Yeah, I've been getting a ton of those lately on Skype that say, call us back, we need to talk to you about something. Or I don't even read them, I just block them and report them.
And report the abuse.
It seems like they have been getting worse.
I'm getting more than one a day now.
Scam.
Say it again, Seth?
A new phishing thing, or?
Yeah, it must be. It must be a new phishing. I haven't really spent much time looking it up. It would have been good if we had more time. It would have been a good thing to kind of research and talk about on the show here. But if you are a Skype user and you are getting these bizarre contact requests from system maintenance, I'm pretty sure that's not Microsoft out there trying to get a hold of you. I'm pretty sure it's probably somebody trying to either spam you or phish you or one of those kinds of things. And I think you can probably, and I think Jackie's still listening out there. She's probably the only average gal out there with the rest of the tech guys.
She's regular.
Jackie, don't block those. You don't want to take those. So
do block those.
Yeah, do block them. I'm sorry. That's what. Yeah, block them. Don't accept them. Don't let them come through. It's been weird. And Mike, this seems for you. Are they coming with different names every time?
Slightly different because I'm blocking. It must be different because I'm blocking and reporting abuse every time. And I've got 2 during the show. I got 1 earlier tonight. So it seems to be getting worse. It's almost every day now. I am getting multiple of those.
Are you a heavy Skype user yourself? Is that?
I'm fairly decent Skype, heavy user of Skype.
I was just wondering if it hits people that use it more often. I was just curious.
That's a good question.
Well, what you wonder is if somewhere in your your contact chain, if somebody has been compromised, and that's how it's working. Yeah.
Andrew,
in your Skype security settings, do you allow calls from anyone, or only people in your contact list? Because I've never had one of these calls.
Oh, well, maybe that's a setting I'll have to check.
Yeah, let me share my screen. Where are we?
Share your Skype screen in a Google Hangout.
I will. There we go. So that's under Skype options, under privacy settings, and the very top setting, allow calls from anyone or people in my contact list only. I don't receive any of those spammy type.
Okay. That's a setting I will change tonight.
Now, if you switch that, if someone wants to get in contact with you, they're not actually on your list. They can send you a chat, right?
A contact request.
I still get contact requests and chats and all the rest of it. I just don't get calls unsolicited.
Yeah.
Gotcha. That's cool.
And this is a good one. This looks like a good one to turn off as well. Targeted ads from Microsoft.
Yeah, that just got added.
Yeah, I know, in the last release.
Yeah, they are getting pretty aggressive with their ads. I do want to cover one more thing before we go, and Mike, you wanted to talk, or you had a note in here about GPS tracking, our GPS tracker app for tagging images in Lightroom. This comes from our Facebook member, our very own Andrew Morris. So, Mike, what have you got there?
Yeah, I did give credit to Andrew Morris on that one. Andrew posted in our Facebook group, something where Lightroom 4 now allows you to geotag. You could have geotagged before, but in Lightroom 4 you can geotag images and it will show up on a map, a Google map displayed inside of Lightroom 4. For a lot of us photographers, either our cameras, if we're shooting DSLRs, do not have GPS embedded into the camera, or we don't have a GPS device attached to the camera. So what I have done in the past is with my phone, when I'm out shooting, I will just take a photo with the phone and then later come back and, if I remember, manually tag those images with the GPS data that I got from the phone. Andrew Morris, the Andrew on the show right now, pointed out that there is a Google, there's an app both for the iPhone and for the for Android. There's an app out there, and I think we come up with a couple of different ones. What was the one, Andrew, that you originally posted? It was Geotag.
So the one I originally found is called GPS
Geotag.
Tracker.
Yes, GPS track.
Yeah, and so you run it on your phone, and GPS logger it's called, and it creates you a GPX or a KML file. So KML files are the ones that I think Google Earth uses, and a GPX is like your the file that you get off a Garmin GPS or something similar to that. And then this article that I popped into Mike's JPEG to RAW community on Facebook is about using Lightroom to import that file and use timestamp on your image to write the location code for that image into the metadata for the image, so that then you can upload it, say, to a Flickr, or even within Lightroom you can look at where those photographs were taken. So you build yourself a photo map as to where you're taking your photographs.
Yeah, the key thing there is that you want to make sure your camera time is synced with your phone time when you start.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you sync those two, you go out and you do your shoot, you got your phone turned on for the GPS, you come back, so you load all your images into Lightroom 4, you then take that file that Andrew just mentioned, and Lightroom 4 will bring that in there and then match up. Every time there's an image, look at that data at the same time and pull the GPS data. It can then even do reverse lookup information and find out, all right, that GPS location is in this city, this state, this country, and add all that data into your Lightroom metadata for that image. And if you're a Lightroom 4 user, it's really neat to see your images start to fill up different places, either around where you live or around the country, or if you travel even further than that, around the world. It's really neat to see your images being pinned all over the map.
Yeah, that's a neat feature. I haven't really utilized it. I mean, I understand that you can do it. My camera itself doesn't have that, and I haven't really tried the phone thing. You're always talking about using your phone.
Yeah.
You know, I might. I just haven't found a need for it for me.
Yeah, you know, if you're, this probably comes into a lot if you're like a landscape photographer and you're going out and do that. If you're like, when I'm shooting sports, heck, 1,500 photos in one place. It's not that important to geotag every one of those like that.
That's going to be a lot of drop pins in one spot.
Yeah, and I'm going to visit that location more than once. But if you are going, you know, and shooting landscape, or going and doing, maybe you're doing a model shoot at
and just want to find the same location,
and you want to find that place again. You know, that'd be interesting if you're doing model shoots, because you know, when Lightroom is, while it has editing capability, it has some pretty powerful editing capability. It is also and it's probably foremost a image management cataloging type thing. So you can go and say, you know, let me go and research all the photo shoots I did with this model or whatever else, and then bam, you can see them geotagged all over your map if you do all that. And I think the phone app that Andrew brought up is a good cheap way to bring geotagging into your images.
Cool.
Yeah, and especially without having to buy a dedicated device, you can pick up little dedicated devices about the size of a film container that run off a AA battery, and I think they run out at sort of $70 or $80 on eBay. But you know, who hasn't got a smartphone these days?
Absolutely, and you're going to take it with you when you go out shooting.
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool. All right, good stuff. That's one of the advantages to being part of the Facebook group out there, facebook.com/group/theaverageguy, and just all you have to do is ask to be invited in, and we'll let you in, and some great conversation going on out there, and our very own Andrew Morris providing great information around. And Seth, thanks for already posting the Drobo out to the Drobo post out to that group as well. We need some good ideas for a giveaway, so don't forget to do that. I got some wrap-up announcements, but I want to thank you guys, Mike and Seth and Andrew, for coming out tonight. And of course, Mike, we can find you at jpeg2raw.com. Is that the right address to be giving out these days?
It is. You know, jpeg2raw.com is not complete. There's still holes in it, but it is. We're posting all the new shows there. The live show is there. Novstudios.com still works. You can watch the show there, the live show, or you can go to jpeg2raw.com/live and watch the live show there too.
And you are just jpeg2raw on Twitter as well.
Yep.
You guys have any cool giveaways coming up? Why should people come out there and listen to the podcast? Besides great content,
we have great content. We've been on a guest booking extravaganza lately, and I've been booking guests like crazy, and had a pre-show with somebody right before this. But we don't have a giveaway right now. But we're always one step away. We had a good December. I just got to figure out how much all the shipping is going to cost me before I do another giveaway, because shipping is not as cheap as I had thought it was going to be.
Yeah, no, it can. That's the bad part about doing this. I'm getting to the point where I'm going to drop ship stuff right from Amazon. You know, rather than, it's nice to show it on the podcast and stuff, but I think I'm going to show it on a piece of paper. and
Well,
then
That's a good way to go. I think that would be a smart move. Yeah.
sometimes I make commitments that without thinking them fully through. So we have a number of books that we're having the author sign. So I've got to ship them to him and pay for the shipping for him that's in the back, and then pay for the shipping to get it to the individuals.
And you were trying to do that by Christmas, I remember you saying.
We did, but then we included the December winter in that, so that messed that up.
Well, there you go.
And of course, whenever we do giveaways from vendors like we're going to do a Drobo, they'll just automatically ship it for me. So that's awesome. Always nice as well. So great. And Sess, we find you your IDEX Media, right, on Twitter?
Yeah. If you go to IDEX Media, at IDEX Media is my Twitter handle, and design.me is my website.
And it's a very cool website, by the way. I dig what you're doing. You did a first run on a podcast. You've got the best intro music ever that you wrote and did yourself.
I did. That's all completely original. And the best outro with JPEG to RAW and the average guy.
Thank you.
Cameo.
Always good.
Thank you.
You've been busy, and I know you haven't had a chance through the holidays to get back at it, but I'm looking forward to your next edition, your next podcast. I like the style. I like what you're doing over there. So good work. Keep it up. And well, of course, we'll always have you back here in the next couple weeks, and I appreciate you coming on. Andrew, always good to have you. You're surviving twins. They're growing and eating and pooping, right?
We're getting there.
Okay.
Always.
Any given day, the answer may vary at the moment.
Yeah, no, I know. Trust me, I know. But it's good for you to come in. You're a new nower here. Glad to have you on. And I tried to cut you out of the podcast. Just a little inside baseball. I told Andrew he had the day off. Enjoy the family time, and he wouldn't let me. He's like, no, I want to meet Mario. So I'm glad you could make it on. We did give Christian the night off. Unfortunately, he's been trying to fix the website. It's been going up and down a little bit tonight. But Christian, thanks for all that you do as well. And keeping the site up and running, and I've got some more business for you coming your way. Some exciting stuff going on here at theaverageguy.tv, especially with the Home Tech Podcast. I'll just mention again, next Monday, January 24th, live interview with Ray Ortega of the Podcaster Studio. If you're a podcaster or thinking about podcasting, you're going to want to listen to this. You can come in live. I think we're at 7 p.m. I'm pretty sure. Could be 8. I'll have to double check that. But watch the Twitter at Jay Collison or the site. Actually, there's a post out there right now on theaverageguy.tv that has the time on there. And so go check that out. Next Monday, the 24th, if you're listening to this over the weekend, which most of you do, you will be just in time for it. Come out Monday night and come here, Ray. Great podcaster, great voice. And we're going to talk a lot about the mechanics behind podcasting, so you want to be at that. If you haven't started downloading the Financial Tech Podcast, do that. 10 minutes a week might be the best 10 minutes you're going to get around your finances, and we'll have some tips and tricks and all those kinds of things when it comes from the world of finance, from our own Andrew Hunt of Guide Rock Capital and the Gallup Federal Credit Union, which, of course, is where I work, so I appreciate that, Andrew, as well. And then we also want to thank Mario Blandini for coming on tonight, and he's a busy guy and good to get him on. So, Mario, thanks for coming out. I'll remind you, if you're not getting the podcast automatically, you're probably missing out on them, and one good way to do the audio podcast is through Stitcher. Just go out to Stitcher.com, search Home Tech Podcast. We actually have them. I have the buttons just available out at theaverageguy.tv. You can click Stitcher. For Home Tech, it will automatically take you there, log in, and subscribe you to the podcast. And you can get the audio that way. If you want to get the video, you really need to do that through YouTube. And just go out to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/theaverageguy. And you can just subscribe to him out there, and we push a video out a week. I'm going to warn you, I've got 2 dynamite interviews coming. One of them, Brian Burgess, so we interviewed during CES, and Brian's going to talk a little bit about what he does for Groovy Post. Quite a few of you heard that during the live coverage of CES last week, but the interview was so good, and Brian was a big part of our show when we got things started back 2 years ago. It's been 2 years, right? Yeah, 2 years ago. Brian was a big part. In fact, he wrote the riff that you hear when you hear the audio version of this podcast. Brian both wrote that and the exit music. And so, Brian, there's an interview. It's just coming. I'm going to just dump it in the stream. It will show up, and you'll want to listen to about a 30-minute interview. And then we did a great interview with Chris Barnes, and Mike Howard and myself and Chris Barnes spent some time talking about the future and what's the next big thing. We were talking about CES. Was there anybody else in that discussion, Mike, or was it just the three of us?
No, it's just the three of us.
Okay. I didn't want to leave anybody out. But we talked about 4K TVs and what's the next big thing, and you'll want to hear that. That's about an hour long, and I think I'll probably drop that out next weekend. Just to give you a warning, watch for your feeds that there's some more stuff coming, and we may double up some podcasts. I want to get that stuff out to you, and it's some good content. All right, we've gone long enough. Thanks for listening. An extra long podcast, but we thank Mario again for coming out for Drobo. We'll stay around for a little bit of the after show. That's the beauty of listening live. And folks can stay around as long as they want, but I want to say good night. Good night, everybody. Thanks for coming out.
Good night.
Bye, folks.